Hey folks, welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I am very passionate about, and that is creativity and how to actually be more creative, because there is a science and an art to be more creative. But first, why is creativity so important? It's important because we always come across challenges, problems, obstacles that we have to face, speed bumps. And creativity is one of the main mechanisms for us to be able to come up with a solution. Ultimately, it's the ability to think about solving a particular problem or situation or creating some kind of opportunity. And that comes from coming up with ideas. Now, idea generation is just one aspect of creativity, right? Creativity is actually a broader perspective, because a lot of people think that creativity is coming up with these new and novel ideas. And that's not necessarily what creativity is about. That is just one aspect of it. So can you be a creative person and not have come up with something absolutely new? Oh yeah, 110%. Because the vast majority of creativity that's out there is the collection of ideas, the combination of ideas and theories or situations or facts that already exist. That's ultimately how you become more creative. So why would you want to come up with something new when you can just combine a bunch of things? I call it the MacGyver approach. So I'm going to talk about 3 particular things that you can do to be more creative. And some of this is based on neuroscience, based on the studies. I'm very passionate about this subject because it's one of the first things that I started to study at a very young age. In fact, when I was in grade 6, I had a substitute teacher who was from Europe that came in, drew a bunch of circles on the chalkboard and had some words in there and connected them with lines and said, "This is a mind map." That was the first time I ever saw a mind map in my life. And it was so novel to me that I asked the teacher, "Hey, where did you come up with this?" And he said, "Well, if you really want to learn about this, go to the library," at that time. And he said, "Go take a look at some famous inventors like Leonardo da Vinci or some scientists like Einstein and see what you can figure out about how they thought." And so that's when I really started to study the brain at that time and got into brain science. But creativity was a first start to my exploration of the brain because I was so fascinated by it. And ever since I've been studying that, I did my MBA in innovation leadership because I truly believe that creativity and innovation is not only necessary for us to be successful in the business world, but it's even more successful for us as human beings, because those people who are stuck typically are stuck because they can't find creative enough solutions or come up with some solutions or find opportunities in their biggest challenges. And that's what I see, and I see this day in and day out. So what are these 3 things? The first one is, although creativity is somewhat seen as this open, basically this vast space of thinking and ideas, that's not necessarily the case. The more creative you want to be is based on solving a particular problem or statement. So the brain requires parameters, right? The brain requires parameters to come up with solutions and opportunity. So having a problem statement or a goal is very important for you to be creative. So if you're trying to solve a particular business problem, you got to state that business problem, not only just in one way, but in multiple ways, because how you word something, for example, how are we going to increase our revenues by 50%, is different than saying, how can we sell 50% more to our existing clients, for example. So those statements are slightly different, and they get you to think completely differently as well. So how you word problem statements or goals is very important, and try wording the problem statement or goal in different ways. The way you word it is going to determine how you think, which determines your level of creativity and type of creativity. So word the problem statement in different ways. The second is what I call the think and pause technique. This is something that I learned that famous Renaissance men used to do, like Leonardo da Vinci, which is consume a whole bunch of information and knowledge about a particular topic and then pause and allow your brain to work with that information, because your brain is extremely powerful. And what it does is a lot of the processing is happening at the unconscious level. So when you take in this information and you are trying to consciously force a thought, it can be sometimes futile. But if you allow it to fester, if you allow it to, you can say, ferment, if you allowed it to incubate, a lot of innovation platforms or science talks about the incubation period for creativity, which is just allowing that information to sit and connect with itself. And this is when we have those aha moments, when we are in the shower or going for a walk, and all of a sudden that idea pops up and you're like, oh my God, this is how I can solve this. That comes from the incubation period. So you have to have some kind of problem statement or goal, have a think and pause technique. But here's another element that I found extremely powerful, and it's what I call the Lego effect, which is if you take a look at Legos, all the pieces that you can put together, you can be extremely creative with Lego, and they are different colors, they are different sizes. And the same thing with our brains. What we want to do is consume information in different fields, in different expertise and areas of topics. So for me, I consume a lot of information when it comes to neuroscience, performance psychology, philosophy, spirituality, but there's other aspects too that I add into it. I add into it music, for example, because I'm taking guitar lessons. I add it into dance, or add dance aspects into it because I'm taking dance lessons. So these different aspects that are not related, what ends up happening is not just about getting a wider or a vaster spectrum of knowledge. It's about getting knowledge from other fields that can then be connected, like Lego, to build the idea that you need, or build a solution or the prototype or whatever it is, business model that you need. So what you are doing is you're taking little pieces, like little pieces of Lego from different fields, and connecting them. And the fun thing here is that your brain can do this at an unconscious level. A lot of these processes when it comes to creativity, if you guide your brain down the right path with the right steps, your brain automatically comes up with creative ideas. The more you force it, the more challenging it can be. So that's how creativity actually happens. You give it some parameters, like having a problem statement or goal, by consuming a bunch of information, and then allowing your brain to incubate that information. But then also by providing your brain with information and knowledge from various types or fields, and becoming expert in different areas so that your brain can start connecting the dots by itself. This is extremely powerful. It's something that I focus on all the time. And one fourth element, which I'm just going to throw in there too, because this is unconventional, but meditation is a practice that I use for creativity all the time. Some of my best ideas have come from a state of meditation, or immediately after a state of meditation. I firmly believe that getting into a meditative state, if you're truly in that state, you're able to tap into what we call universal knowledge. And that universal knowledge is the all-knowing knowledge, right? Every single idea, every single thought is already up in there. And this is what a lot of inventors believed as well. They believed that they weren't the ones coming up with the ideas. They were just tapping into this universal genius, as they referred to it. And meditation allows people to do that. It allows people to get out of our day-to-day type of habits and routines and thinking and tap into something greater. And when you are able to tap into something greater, it becomes extremely powerful for you when it comes to creativity and innovation. So if you try these 4 techniques, I would love to hear your feedback in terms of some of the techniques that you've already tried, if you have additional techniques, and what your experience is with the techniques that I've shared with you. So hopefully this adds value and you're able to go out there and be super creative and innovative going forward.